Good evening, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. Ross, good evening. Colin, Chorus, how you doing? Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here. It's night now, right? It's 7:45. Chris, how you doing? I had to push it off a little bit because I was trying to get some things done. But thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. Tonight program's a little bit different, not sports. Bless up float. Thanks for being here. It's more around talking a little bit about the Diddy situation, but from a little bit different angle. Not from the angle of guilty or innocent or what transpired, but doing some comparative to say, how we think about justice and how justice is served. And it should be interesting if you think about, and I'll put up some pictures of individuals who have gone through the process. Some have been convicted, one committed suicide, but just kind of comparison between those of certain different persuasion. Harvey Weinstein, as you know, is in jail. Jeffrey Epstein, who supposedly committed suicide. Bill Cosby, who was convicted, went to jail, and subsequently, I don't want to use the word exonerated, but the trial shouldn't have gone to trial because he signed an agreement with a previous prosecutor in Pennsylvania, and therefore he should not have gone to jail. R. Kelly was in jail, and Jonathan Majors, who probably had his career destroyed. So just some purview of individuals, all very powerful individuals, all in entertainment. Well, Epstein wasn't entertainment, but Weinstein was, not as an entertainer, but someone who worked in that industry. Obviously, Bill Cosby is a comedian, actor, R. Kelly, a musician, and Jonathan Majors is an actor. So yeah, welcome to the channel. Here we sort of talk about, we want to take on difficult topics. We want to talk about the Sean Diddy, what we call the federal sex trafficking trial, which is interesting. Paul Watkins is saying heard conflict versus toxic boss lawsuit are going. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll probably touch on that another time. Paul Watkins. I know some people would love to talk about football, but it's not football night tonight. And I saw someone mention about cranky for GenSec. That's not happening. And I know more than I can say about the GenSec. That's all I'll say about that. Much more than I can say. I've known it for a while. But we got to think about there's more about this, right? Is this about justice, or is this about warning to powerful individual who have a shade of a darker complexion? I'm gonna give you an example, because one may say, and I believe in this concept, which is, if you're guilty, you have to do the time. If you do the crime, you should do the time, and the time should be reflective of the nature of the violation that you committed or the crime that you committed. But I'm gonna give you some example. We know about Jeff Epstein, and there's so many people that were affiliated with Epstein. It's amazing. In fact, Epstein got convicted around 2007. I think he served about 13 months in jail for abusing, sexually assaulting kids as young as 13 years old, right? That was a process that went through. Acosta, who was the attorney general in Florida at the time, gave him this sweetheart deal. And you say, money changed hands, right? And we'll touch into that. Money changed hands. I'm not accusing anyone Acosta of doing this, but he was also in the Trump administration. And by the way, Trump knew Epstein. But something had to happen there with influential people for him to get 13 months for such heinous crimes. Obviously, he continued his behavior. Subsequently, he got sent to jail and then supposedly committed suicide. But here's the thing. There are a couple people who were never charged. Think of Prince Andrew from the British royal family. And also think of Leon Black. Do you guys know who Leon Black is? Anyone in the audience? Do you know who Leon Black is? I'm curious. Because we hear about Andrew, we hear that Bill Gates knew Epstein, we hear that Trump knew Epstein. All these people knew Epstein, but There's not been a lot of conversation, at least to me, in the public domain about Leon Black. Now, Leon Black was one of the chairperson or chairman for Apollo, which is a huge investment firm, managed, I think, over $1 trillion. Leon Black is a billionaire. Leon Black gave Epstein between $150 and $170 million. Now, supposedly this money was for services performed. Good evening, Ted Dexter. Whatever the services performed, supposedly related to, I guess, estate planning, all that nonsense, which Epstein basically didn't do. But he's a very powerful Wall Street financier who resigned from Apollo. And by the way, Apollo did an internal investigation. A higher external law firm came in, did their review, and said he made some bad choices, but nothing here to show, right? Now, if I gave you $170 or $150 million, that's a lot of money. For what? We're not family. We're not relatives. We're just associates. 170 million or 150 to 170, what the number is. Really amazing. Truly, truly amazing. So let's go through the charges for Puffy. I'm going to play a video for Puffy, and then we can talk about some of these things. We can then break down the charges in detail, talk about the comparative between him and other individuals like Leon Black and Weinstein and Prince Andrew. And then we can have a dialogue about are we all comfortable with the direction of travel?
Drugs and viciously beaten by Diddy on many occasions. Through his lawyers, he vehemently denied everything.
Let me start this over.
Diddy was arrested last September, but for the 55-year-old three-time Grammy winner, serious claims surfaced the year before. That's when, in November 2023, the rapper's ex-girlfriend, R&B singer Cassie, filed a civil lawsuit alleging over the course of 10 years she was trafficked, raped, plied with drugs, and viciously beaten by Diddy on many occasions. Through his lawyers, he vehemently denied everything before it was announced that the pair had reached an out-of-court settlement. Then, the week after, two more lawsuits were filed by another two women claiming that they were sexually assaulted, beaten and drugged by him in the early 90s, claims the rapper's lawyers said were false. Then allegations kept coming. A month later, another claimed in 2003 Combs and two other men took turns to rape a 17-year-old, which seemed to prompt Diddy to take to Instagram, posting a statement broadly denying everything in the mounting number of lawsuits, vowing he'd fight for the truth. Then last March, police got involved when Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles were raided by federal agents. He wouldn't be arrested until 6 months later. Before that, news broadcaster CNN published a shocking video which went viral. It appears to show Combs attacking his ex Cassie in a hotel hallway in 2016. Diddy apologised and said he was disgusted that he'd done it.
I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
Fast forward to September, and he was arrested at a Manhattan hotel. The next day, prosecutors announced he was being charged with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. They accused him of creating a criminal enterprise, abusing, threatening, and coercing women for years, and say that he used the term freak-off to describe orgies he'd arranged.
The freak-off sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics.
In court, he pleaded not guilty and was denied bail. Since then, even more civil lawsuits have been filed. One allegation involving a girl as young as 13, another a boy aged 10, all of which, through his lawyers, he's repeatedly denied. Prosecutors have also updated the criminal indictment that he's facing, adding new details accusing him of dangling a person over an apartment balcony, claiming he maintained control over some employees with threats of physical force and reputational damage, and adding a second charge of sex trafficking and a second charge of transportation to engage in prostitution, taking the number of criminal charges he faces from 3 to 5. Which takes us up to now, a trial that's expected to last up to 10 weeks, and Diddy, via his lawyers, vowing to clear his name. If convicted, he could face up to life in prison.
So you can see the charges are significant, right? And I have 7 charges, not 5, even though I think they sort of duplicate these charges. So here are the charges that I have, and I'll give you some sort of definition of some of these. So sex trafficking by force, when an individual is compelled by force, fraud, or coercion to engage in commercial sexual activity. That's sort of sex trafficking by force. Racketeering conspiracy, which I thought racketeering is normally associated with the mob. That's when you engage in a pattern of illegal activities for profit, typically involving organized crime. So I'm not sure how that racketeering came in place. So it's just not one crime, but a series of offensives, I should say, often involving extortion, bribery, or other illicit activities. I'm not sure where the extortion comes in. I can understand all these sort of sex trafficking things and going across state lines are one thing, but sometimes I think, you throw out 101 charges and hope some stick, or you take the same thing and split them up in different components and make it seem like a lot. They have kidnapping, which is basically when you abduct someone against their will and you're holding them captive, which they sort of there's allegations that he did that. Sort of interesting. Forced labor. So you're forcing employees to work long hours. I think that was a Wall Street thing in investment banking. But anyway, force them to work long hours and threatening to punish them if they don't do so. As it relates to, I guess, may relate to the sort of the sex trafficking and doing it over a sustained period of time, 2 decades supposedly. Obstructing justice, which I think is an interesting one. So when you talk about obstruction of justice in a broad crime encompassing actions that interfere with lawful administration of justice. I'm not sure where that comes into play, unless they're saying that when they first approached him, are trying to push, he tried to hide information or tried to coerce witnesses. So it basically involves preventing the execution of lawful processes, influencing court proceedings, etc. Not sure where that come into play. I thought they approached him initially. The process took about 6 months and he got arrested. So they're trying to put a lot of stuff together. Transportation for prostitution. Now, I thought all these sort of orgies and things that people talk about, don't they happen like normally in Manhattan? Isn't that thing that happen all about? People do it of their own volition, not necessarily coerced, but they're saying he coerced it, he financed it, and he executed against it. Now, for transportation for prostitution, there's something called the Mann Act, also known as the sort of White Slave Traffic Act of 1910. It's a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery or for any other immoral purpose. So we go in like Trump, who's going back to 1700 to come up with laws to deport people. Here we come with these kind of laws to prosecute people like Diddy. And then there's the whole bribery, right? The act of promising or giving or receiving money of some value with corrupt intent involved. So really interesting in terms of the charges. I mean, she said 5. I saw about like 7 of these, but if you look at them, they're related, all sort of related in some way, shape, or form, right? And the prosecutors are saying that they claim that from 2004 to 2024, he used his industry and clout to coerce women into drug-fueled sex acts using threats and blackmail. And the 2016 video showing him assaulting Cassie Ventura, who actually settled with him, didn't help, right? It was an awful video, frankly. I mean, he was beating her to a pulp. He was just, you think he was a center forward playing football the way he was dealing with her. And I think there was a CNN video that came out that showed that, right? Somebody gave it to CNN and he was captured on a surveillance video in a hotel. So we're not saying he's a quiet boy. In fact, far from it. He's always been involved in something. From way back when with Jennifer Lopez, where what's his name, Shine, went to jail with a gun in Manhattan and all that transpired, to now, he's in an industry where people do things something they shouldn't do. But let's think about how the whole trial or process unfolds. So they're now going to the process now for jury selection. It was supposed to be done today. It's been postponed until Monday. Part of the problem that they have is that video has been so widely circulated because when you're in a jury, they want it to be not aware of what's transpiring in the case, so it will influence your decision. And that video has been so widely circulated that a lot of people who may be up for jury duty would have seen that video and may have drawn some perspective or have a perspective as to his guilt or innocence, regardless of what that entails. So if you're the defense attorney, you're trying to find people who may not have seen the video and therefore would not be biased in their perspective and just use the facts of the case as presented in the courtroom to make an informed decision. And so there's a lot of concern about that video, what that video may do as with the jury. And so today they didn't get to the end of the process of selecting a jury and postponed that to Monday. They also have another problem. They have a number of key witnesses. I think there's about 3 of them. And one of the witnesses, called Victim 3, was expected to provide testimony alleging sexual exploitation by Diddy. However, prosecutors have been unable to locate her or establish contact through her attorney. I mean, she just basically disappeared. Someone said they're looking for jurors from Mars. Look, some people, you'll be surprised, some people are not even aware of these things are happening. There are reports that suggest that Victim 3 has been uncooperative and may have personal reasons for not participating in the case or in the trial. And her absence could significantly impact the prosecution's case, which also relies upon testimony from other accusers, including Cassie Ventura, who he settled with. And there are about 3 Jane Does. What's interesting for Cassie is she settled with Diddy, and I'm sure there's an NDA someplace. The question is, how does her testimony affect the NDA she may have signed with Diddy? Because I'm sure he paid her a lot of money. Or is it that, you know what, she's going to break the NDA and then probably sue him later if he takes his money back? Because if he gets prosecuted, because if she testify, he's not found guilty, then what does that mean in terms of an NDA they sign? If you sign an NDA, say you're not going to speak about this in public, and you do, then you violated the agreement, which could mean she could lose whatever resources she had gotten from him initially. Now, the trial opening was supposed to begin on Monday, but they haven't finished jury selection yet. So we'll see what happens there. The trial is expected to run 8 weeks. It's projected to last 8 weeks. During this period, the court's going to hear from obviously all the witnesses, including Cassie, who I mentioned was brutalized by him, and she's expected to testify. And the prosecution is going to present all these charges. Remember, they raided all these compounds, his home in California, home in Miami, and have a lot of computer files. And I heard that he liked to, as what they're saying, he likes to record stuff. Some people like to watch themselves. He likes to record stuff, so that should be interesting. Now, what his attorneys are saying is that his lawyers are saying the prosecution is criminalizing consensual adults, so behavior. So whether you have freak-offs, whether you have orgies, whatever it is that you're doing, that's between all grown adults making decisions. It's not criminal to do so. And they argue that this is less about the law and more about taking down a high-profile black billionaire. Now, I am always one who pushed back on the concept of, because you're black and you're rich and you're prosecuted, that doesn't mean that is the system coming after you. But when you have patterns and when you have situations where certain people get prosecuted and others don't, you do have to beg some question, right? So let's think about, are black celebrities treated differently than those of other persuasions, right? Because Diddy's not alone. We have Bill Cosby, who was convicted, but Bill Cosby had signed an agreement with a prosecutor that he wouldn't be convicted. And it's not only about being convicted and go to jail. You know how much millions he may have spent? So the people trying to have you, because when you have state resources to fight a case, it's the public resources. You don't really care. But I have to spend my personal money on high-profile lawyers who charge $1,000 an hour, and the case go on for like a year. You can go broke no matter how much money you have. So Bill Cosby, who was eventually, probably would use the word exonerated by a judge, should never been prosecuted in the first place. Whether he was guilty of what he did, there was an agreement for him not to. Just like how Epstein got off, only got 13 months, and Epstein was guilty of really violating kids as young as 13. He had a sweetheart deal in Florida. R. Kelly got convicted for grooming young kids, right? Michael Jackson was never convicted, but he went to a trial. Jonathan Majors more recently, where his Caucasian girlfriend was being very physical with him. He was trying to push her off. His career sort of got ruined. She never got charged. And she was the aggressor. Now compare this to Weinstein and Epstein. Both of them faced justice, but only after decades of impunity, right? So they may have faced justice, but it took a while to get there. As I mentioned before, Epstein was charged with recruiting dozens of girls, dozens. Some of them as young as 13 for massages and sex at his mansion in Palm Beach. And under a plea deal he reached in 2007 with Acosta, who was the then U.S. attorney, who was part of the Trump administration in his first term, Epstein was given immunity from federal prosecution and pleaded guilty to lesser state charges. Can you believe that? A man who has dozens of teenagers, young girls, not adults, doing all these heinous things. And the person who actually gave him the plea deal and let him off was in the Trump administration. Then again, wasn't Trump have some sexual charges, court problem? Not surprising. He served just 13 months. Now, the more interesting case to me, before I go there, I think when black entertainers are accused, coverage is relentless. Words like predator, monster dominate headlines. But when it's wealthy white financiers like Leon Black, you don't hear the same thing that come out. Right? Now, if you think about Diddy versus Leon Black, because I want to focus on Black, I also want to focus on Prince Andrew. Leon Black co-founded Apollo Global Management. And go look at Apollo people. Managed over $1 trillion in assets, a lot of money. He's a billionaire. And between 2012 and 2017, over a 5-year period, he paid between $150 and $170 million to Jeffrey Epstein. Same Epstein that was convicted previously of molestation, of sexual assault, of having sex with kids who are 13 or below. Or 13 and above, I should say. And Black said he gave him the money for tax advice. Tax advice. If you're Leon Black, you don't need tax advice from Epstein. You can go to Deloitte & Touche, you can go to PricewaterhouseCoopers, you can go to a tax firm to do that, or a law firm. You ain't going to Epstein. Epstein is an individual. And there's indication, allegedly, that was for other services. Good afternoon, Low Wolf. Good afternoon, Triple E, Richard. That was for other services, not for those services, as Leon Black said. And I think the Leon Black situation to me is the most, and the Prince Andrew are the most concerning. If you think about it, Black never got prosecuted, never got a day in jail. I mean, here's the thing, people, which is very interesting. So Andrew, who you see in one of the videos with the lady, what's her name? Virginia Guthrie was her name? The one that he settled with for like $12 million. When you're settling with individuals for past things that you have done which are inappropriate, or when you have paid $150 million, why aren't prosecutors rushing to go figure out what transpired here? They're going after Diddy, right? When adults are involved, we're not hearing about kids, even though more recently we had a 13-year-old and a boy was supposedly 10, because everybody now is going to try to get their hands on that money. That's what normally happens, right? Everybody's sued. Just like Jay-Z got sued the other day by a 13-year-old, said she was 13, and all of a sudden the case fell apart. Everybody's going to try to get their hands on the money. All these lawyers who should they be sued themselves do that. But when you pay over $150 million, or when you pay a $12 million settlement, why aren't those individuals being pursued? Why aren't prosecutors going after them? Why is Andrew and Leon Black not being followed upon and not being pursued? That's amazing to me. Those are clear signs that something is not right. And yet they're not pursued. They go on to live their lives regularly. Obviously, society may not accept them as well as they did before, but they're not have a chance to go to prison for life like Diddy is. And supposedly Diddy's situation is with grown adults. Now, here's the thing. Who gets bail and who gets a pass? Diddy is being held without bail, detained, locked up, fighting from a jail cell. His legal team called it excessive. The court called him a flight risk with a public danger. Now, the courts can take your passport. They can give you house arrest. It's not like he killed somebody, right? They probably can say he's intimidating and he has crew who do things for him, but they haven't proven that he has killed anybody or put anybody at harm in that sense. And yet, they didn't take his passport. They basically had him in jail all this time. Weinstein got bail, and he was much more predator than Diddy until he violated that bail and did a bunch of things and eventually went through the process and been convicted and sent to jail. Leon Black hasn't spent 1 day being prosecuted or going to jail. Paid between $150 and $170. He faced no criminal charges, no handcuffs, no mug shots, no bail needed, no arrest happened. Prince Andrew, he's accused of trafficking victim connected to Epstein. He settled the case for $12 million. He never saw a courtroom, never faced arrest, never had to post a bond. And if you compare that to Diddy, I don't know how we get to where we are. Same system, same constitution, different outcomes. You decide, is this justice or is it about who you are, who you know, what persuasion you are, what's the color of your skin? And the question you ask, could this happen to any of us? Probably happen every day. So if Diddy's guilty, he should be held accountable, right? If he's guilty of what they're saying it is, because you can make up stuff the way you want and it looks good. His life, his business legacy are all shredded. Social media is a judge and jury and executioner, frankly. And the same thing happened to Jonathan Majors. Before his trial even concluded, he was dropped by Marvel, his management, and his endorsements. And despite inconsistent testimony and evidence suggesting mutual aggression, only he was prosecuted, not the Caucasian female who he had the conflict with. So this isn't about celebrity. It's about how quickly a black man's empire can collapse on accusation alone. So the question is, if you're black, would this happen to you? If the world decided you were guilty before you even had a chance to go through trial. So let's be real. Diddy isn't just an artist. He owns a liquor brand, fashion, TV network. He's built an empire. He started from nothing. Went to Howard University, left before he graduated, started his music company. He's done phenomenally well. But you ask the question, Bill Cosby wanted to buy NBC. I guess that would never happen. JC owns a sports agency. He got sued, trumped up charges. I won't mention Kanye because Kanye is just different to me. I can't talk about Kanye. Point I'm trying to make is that if you're a conspiracy theorist, you can say this is all a conspiracy with one objective. For people who are black, especially in the entertainment business, who are doing well, you have to find a way to take them down. So what do you think? Is Diddy being brought to justice or brought down? Are black entertainers treated differently in the courts and in the media? Think about Diddy to Jonathan Majors. Is there a pattern here, or are we imagining this? Are we making this up? Tell me. I'm curious. When I look at these things, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I have disdain for conspiracy theorists, frankly. But when you see patterns developing, you do ask questions as to how we get here. And when I look at the Diddy situation and the charges, I'm like, I'm struggling. I'll tell the truth. No, he ain't no choir boy. Don't get me wrong. But we're acting as if people who are in certain environment doing certain things that seem to be consensual are then be charged with a bunch of charges, which frankly, I struggle with. So DC says, I didn't see it, but apparently R&B singer is searching that Diddy has killed someone, and Kid Cudi alleged Diddy blew up his car. I have little graph for any of these people. Yeah, I don't people gonna allege things, right? I don't know if he's done that. I don't know what he has done. I don't think he's a quiet boy. And this, to me, this is not even about Diddy. It's about process. It's about laws. It's about constitution. It's about equitableness. It's about fairness. It's about treating people fairly and doing the right thing. So, as I said before, if he's guilty, then you have to face the man. But if you're going to make it up just to satisfy some need, then that's not appropriate. And if you look at, and here's the question. Somebody please explain to me how Leon Black and Andrew haven't gone through the process. If you're going to bring Diddy through the process, and we haven't heard, now we hear about 13 and 10-year-old person that's just come up more lately. But if you know what Epstein did, then Andrew and Black had to be dealing with, they had to be dealing with the kids versus adults, right? Leon Black and Andrew, even though none of those charges have been brought against them, you would ask the question, what were they doing with Epstein? There was only one reason why people were dealing with Epstein, frankly, it appears. So can you make that association? And that's why I struggle with that, right? Which is, if you're going to pursue people of different persuasion, because you have all these things, then pursue everybody. Don't do selective prosecution. Don't do selective prosecution. Richard said, it's not selective prosecution, it's white supremacy. Yeah, I don't know if that's what it is, but it's very, well, we have a president who had gone through the process of sexual assault, right? He's gone through the process. And he was of that era, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. And I have a picture with him and Epstein, even though it was Epstein and his wife was in the picture, but they all move in the same circle. DC said the British royal family should be ashamed of how they covered up Andrew's foul for deeds. He should have never been allowed to discover. Yeah, I'm sure because what the royal family is why he got off or wasn't charged, but how can that be okay, people? So then you have no faith in the justice system when you're going to pursue Diddy for all these supposedly sexual, right? They're mainly sexual charges. There's no violence involved. Well, the violence could be he beat up his girlfriend, but they're mainly about prosecution, bribery, sexual charges, all sort of interrelated, right? These parties that he had. And it begs the question as to somebody pursuing kids, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, and having relationship with them versus someone who's dealing with adults. I mean, I don't understand the concept and the way this works. It doesn't make sense to me. And the question one asks oneself is, how can one trust the system when the system continually shows that it cannot be trusted? It cannot be trusted. I struggle with that, actually. And my hope is that at some point, well, I was going to say we come to a fair world, but that may not happen. Drew Russ said, I don't believe that Diddy forced none of these adults to. Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, did he have a gun at their head? How do you threaten them? I mean, they say they threaten them. I mean, here's what normally happens, people. When you have deep pockets, people pursue you. Right? When you have deep pockets, somebody know you have money, they want a piece of the pie. And sometimes, here's what happens. People settle cases. Like, I'll give you an example. The law firms that Trump has pursued in his revenge tour, because they may have been involved in suit against him or involved in a situation where he was on the opposite side. Some of them settled with Trump and gave him $100 million of pro bono work. They didn't settle because they're guilty. They settled because, you know what? It's less toxic to settle versus not settle. Now they're feeling the repercussions of this because some of those firms, the lawyers are leaving, lawyers with integrity, lawyers who are never Trumpers are leaving those firms, and they're more challenged. But the fact of the matter is sometimes companies make a decision that, you know what? If I have to go to court and spend $10 million and I can pay you $5 million to go away, I'll pay you the $5 million to go away. Then I save $5 million. That's what they think about it. Voice Dan says the law is not fair to black people, and some of our people think because they have money, it makes them equal. Yeah. Exactly, Triple E. In fact, Triple E, I think one of the ladies, well, one of the females, what the Playboy mentioned, was having some discussion about Hugh Hefner the other day. So yeah, that's a great question. What did they have the Playboy Mansion? And didn't a lot of people go there? And did Hugh Hefner ever get arrested? Or they're going to say, well, he didn't force anyone to do anything. I don't know. And they always roll out, they normally do, people. They always roll out some black person to be the one delivering the charges. To say, well, it can't be racism because it's a black person who's a prosecutor. They always do that. Somebody who's trying to get his name to go run for political office, what they normally do. Dr. Dan said, the legal system here is good, but need changes. These people love money. The legal system has a lot of holes in it. It's a flawed system, Dr. Dan. Now, what we do when we do these things is that we do these comparisons. How the system versus the British system or the system in Trinidad or El Salvador or Spain. That's what we do, comparison. And we walk away saying, oh, this is okay. A lot of time it's not. Yeah, Dr. Donnie seemed to know a lot about this. I read some article about that the other day. So I'm probably in the same boat as you. But no, I agree. But you don't see these people going to jail. You don't see them get charged for racketeering and bribery and coercion and sex trafficking and prostitution. You don't see that. Now, every system have holes. But we hold up the American system, we hold it up as if it's utopia, as if it's the example that we should all follow. And a lot of times it isn't. It's a flawed system. Yeah, that's what I said up before, Drew Ross. I don't understand that, Drew Ross. Because when you settle, you normally sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which basically says you can't talk about anything about the case. So there must be some, I don't know how this works, how she's able to testify when she signed that NDA. Or is she going to say, you know what? I'll pay back the money and then sue him again. I don't know how's that working. How she's allowed to testify when she may have signed that NDA. That make any sense to me. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going through an interesting time in history where the supposed pureness of the systems that we have here across a lot of different spectrum are now coming under stress, are being challenged, and the hypocrisy that is inherent in these systems is manifesting themselves. The hypocrisy that the U.S. has been had for years in how it deals with countries, deal with people, the covert way it operates, Trump is breaking that all down and showing the real hypocrisy. I'll give you an example. Giving asylum to about 50-something Afrikaners to come here because they've been prosecuted in South Africa. Where was America giving asylum to? Didn't he just rescind that's been granted to a bunch of individuals from Africa and other countries who come here because of their lives are in danger? Didn't Trump just rescind that? So Trump is only focused on those who look like him. And I think that the day we don't realize that racism is here to stay, it's not going anywhere, and that Trump is the leader, then I think we're fooling ourselves. Him giving those Afrikaners, 50-something people, because Musk said they've been persecuted, and he had it in his first term, because they're Caucasian. He's not looking to give any black person asylum. And the media is also culpable. The American media is the worst, people. It's the worst. It's like the worst. New York Times, Washington Post, don't even talk about the Wall Street Journal. They're awful. And sometimes you get fooled by the supposed liberal media. You watch how they write and watch how they use the words and the English language, and you'd be amazed how hypocritical they are. Awful, awful, awful. That's why you gotta get your news from different source. You gotta go to more independent, objective source to get your news because they're not independent. Voice says, Cassie can be forced by court to testify regardless of an NDA. We'll see. She can't be forced to testify. She can always say she played the fifth because it's going to incriminate her. You can't force nobody to testify, frankly. You can always plead the fifth. Because what you say may be used against you. Because if she's his girlfriend, she may have been involved in the process of bringing people in. That'd be interesting to see how that works. The law on the Constitution was made for the black man. What do you mean it was made for us? Or you mean it was made against us? Dee said, if this legal team is looking at painting Cassie as the aggressor, as rumors persist, and giving as good as she got, it means they have given up on a decent defense. Yeah, I don't think that's the best approach to take because they don't have any tape showing her hitting him. And frankly, the way he was treating her, nobody's believed that. Yeah, I think he probably meant wasn't Drew Ross. Well, I don't know about having. I mean, wouldn't you, Drew Russ? He was kicking her to smithereen. If you saw the tape from CNN, I would have that for him too. What he was doing was reprehensible. And sometimes when you get away with things for a long time, you feel like, you know what? You feel like you have all this power. You feel like you're untouchable. And you don't know it doesn't realize how the US operates. By the way, this is Leon Black, and this is Jeff Epstein. Same persuasion. And this is Prince Andrew, and this is the youngster who's not an older woman who we settled with, Virginia. Really interesting, actually. And I go back to this because the point I was making for this whole discussion is how Andrew and Black were treated versus how Diddy's treated. It's night and day. All right? It's night and day. Andrew and Leon Black got off scot-free. I don't know if there is a statutory period for them to be pursued, but why is anybody, the Biden administration didn't look into this? Nobody did. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that Leon Black and Prince Andrew got off scot-free, and we say we're pursuing Diddy for dealing with grown-ass people. It's not like Diddy was dealing with kids. These people are dealing with kids. These people should be locked up on some island and never see the light of day. And they're not even going to get prosecuted. Leon Black gave Epstein, I'm sure if they go look, they can find enough evidence to say he may have done something if he gave Epstein 150 million. Which frankly sound like blackmail to me money. Or Prince Andrew, whatever he was doing. And yet, they're not going to jail. They're not even getting prosecuted. Forget about going to jail. And then we're saying Diddy coerced people. Yeah, and these grown-ass people. Did he have a gun to their head and say they have to come do this? I thought everybody went to Diddy's parties. I don't understand how any of them get off, frankly. You would think that, look, I don't want to be naive about Andrew. It's about the royal family. And I'm sure there's backdoor discussion that got held together, but yeah. Now, Leon Black didn't get any immunity because Leon Black, they never went after Leon Black. Leon Black has spent a lot of money. The man get Epstein 150 million. Can you imagine how much money went around? 150 million. Or 170 is what the number come out to be eventually, but that's a lot of money, people. To one person giving to another person. That makes no sense. That makes a lot of sense as to what that could be related to. And the fact that it never got investigated, much less prosecuted. Those were the people we knew about, Epstein was dealing with a lot of people, a lot of individuals. And when he died, this thing just went away. All that happened was the lady that was with him, I forgot her name, Maxwell, she went to jail, right? I don't think she gave up any names. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who was involved. And yet, we're seeing in Diddy's case, because Diddy's being prosecuted. I'm sure they have a lot of evidence on Diddy because I heard he likes to record stuff. Yes, like he likes to record stuff. It's interesting that he's being pursued as he is. As I showed you before, whether it's Bill Cosby, whether it's Jonathan Majors, whether it's Diddy, whether it's even Jay-Z the other day, everybody looking for deep pockets to go pursue someone to get some money out of them. Now I hear Smokey Robinson is also being sued, Shannon Sharp is being sued. Like, first of all, I do think some of our people put themselves in situations to have some of these bad outcomes, right? There's always a theme there in some way, shape, or form. Always a theme. Who you're dealing with and who realize they can actually stick you up to get something out of you. Triple E said, people have been swinging since like there's no tomorrow, and people to act like this is new is hypocritical. It is very hypocritical, actually. The swinging thing is off the chart, actually, to what's transpiring. Even now, in times like these, it's still something that's pervasive, and yet we're seeing people being held to different standards who are of different races, frankly. And yes, Diddy may have been out there for years. I'm sure someone want to bring him down. But for these prosecutors to come out with a straight face talking about some of these things, I'm like, we're not buying that. Yes, he's probably overindulged. Yes, he was awful in terms of how he beat up his girlfriend. But I'm not buying some of the other things you're telling me. I'm just not. Because I see other people do worse and they don't get the same treatment. They don't get not to be to have bail. Like, this is ridiculous. No bail. Please explain to me. I see murderers get bail. No bail. DC said, don't expect the person in the White House doing anything about it. Perhaps if it's a certain former attorney general with Caesar Perez be brought to justice. I'm surprised Diddy hasn't. Maybe Diddy wasn't a friend of his because he let people off and he's not held accountable. He let off this kid that was sent to jail. What was he sent to jail for? Whether it was a crypto kid or another kid who was sent to jail for what was it? Abusing. I think he had something to do with prescription drugs, selling drugs for ridiculous prices. He let go people, but they're part of their inner circle, right? Every part of that inner circle to be let go. But he has that power and he uses it. He let go the January 6 rioters, call them heroes, because suppose he never lost the election. So the double standard is here. And so when people say somebody's a conspiracy theory, I don't listen to that anymore, frankly, because I am struggling to figure out what's real and what's unreal anymore. What is reality and what's not? Because we seem to be living, I've said this numerous times, in this alternative universe, whereby what we deem to be morality before, integrity before, real before, things that we value are being turned upside down. Especially when your president has done all these things which are deemed illegal over the years, has done all these inappropriate things over the years, is known to be just a despicable person, frankly. And he's embraced by a whole millions of people. Is my mic cutting in and out, people? I thought my mic was fine. Let me know if my mic is cutting in and out. I didn't know it was. It shouldn't be, but it sounds right to me, DC. Hey, Drew Ross, is my mic cutting in and out? Drew Ross saying it was. I wonder what. Maybe I'm touching something I shouldn't be touching. Maybe it's all these cords I have here. That's not a good thing. No, but the point of the matter is this: is that we live in a world which is really, really messed up. It's always been messed up, frankly, to be honest. I know I was thinking about something the other day whereby we keep saying these are the worst times, and we're like, no, you're out of your mind. These are probably some of the better times. The world has seen much worse times. It's just that we expect to be better than we are, given that we're supposed to be, every generation should be more civilized, and we expect to be better, and we're not really much better than we have been previously, which is sort of sad, because as a human being, you expect to improve as an individual, improve over time, and some of the things that informs a human being, supposedly, like integrity and fairness and accountability and responsibility and goodness, seem to be eluding us, even now in these periods when, as human beings, we're supposed to be evolving and getting better. And that's very, very disappointing. But look, I have no stake in the game in terms of Diddy and his situation. My hope is that the truth will come to the surface and that he'll be given a fair trial and it will land where it does. As they said before, one witness has already seemed to have dropped out. And Cassie and whoever else are witnesses, and a lot of Jane Does, because we all have to depend on, unlike previous like state trials where you can have cameras in the courtroom, there's no cameras in the courtroom. So it's going to be interesting to see how information leaks out to the general public and the press and general public in this situation, because you don't have cameras in the courtroom and you can't see things being recorded as they normally do in like state type trials. So it should be really interesting how this materializes. But hopefully it works itself out. I am not optimistic. I know Drew Ross says, I think Dr. Don says he's going to beat it. I don't know, Dr. Don. Sometimes when you have that video of Cassie and him beating Cassie didn't do him any justice. Without that video, I don't know what they found on his computer, right? But you can find sexual things. The question is, did they find coercion in those videos? You can find a lot of videos that may be explicit. and you're uncomfortable with, but the videos suggest that you're doing something which is coercive, it's bribery, it's kidnapping, who knows? And if his lawyers are saying, well, your lawyer always going to defend you and say you didn't do it until they, but he didn't take the plea deal, which is really interesting. Is my internet is messing up? I don't know what's happening. You guys say my internet is messing up? That's weird. Let me just try to see if I can fix this. Am I not coming through clearly, people? If not, I have to cut this. I don't know what's happening. So my audio, I think DC said my audio is my audio in and out? I don't know why it would be though. I'm looking at it, it looks fine. Unless something is shorting out. So when I'm done with this show, I'll have to figure out what's happening. I haven't really used this a lot over the last 3 weeks, but I don't know why it's messing up. I'm looking at it, it seemed like it's fine. Maybe you know what? I'm gonna try to reset it as soon as I'm done with the show. Yeah, I don't know why it's messing up. But look, we as people have to be resilient. We can't just succumb to bad behavior. I'm gonna do a video on Rupert Murdoch next, because I do think people got to realize that the whole MAGA movement was not driven by Trump or started by Trump. Murdoch made Trump. And people don't seem to realize that Murdoch made Trump. Started from, he was in Australia, Adelaide, till he go to England. And then they had the hacking scandal and he came to the US. So I want to do a live show on that. I'm going to do a video on that because I think people don't realize his influence, especially when it comes to right-wing politics, conservative politics, white supremacy. Murdoch is the king. But he's the king behind the scenes, which is even more dangerous than one would imagine. Because when somebody's covert and doing things and they're not overt and you can't see them, but they're very influential. And even when he paid out almost $1 billion to Dominion, didn't make a difference. Still do what he does. You can imagine that it is, right? And we're dealing with DC saying, I know someone who once worked in the industry. It's an incredibly vile industry full of predators. Yeah, I mean, I think the entertainment business, DC, I don't think it's just music. I think it's Hollywood. I mean, you hear all these stories about having to lie on people's couch. That's been happening forever to get a part or to do something. That's been happening forever. And music and Hollywood go hand in hand, right? It's a predatory industry with predator individuals who abuse their situation, who abuse their positions. And Diddy is no different. He's part of that whole makeup. But the question is he what they're charging him with? And is he different from any other person? Now, we saw Russell Simmons, and maybe the reason why Diddy didn't get bail, we saw Russell Simmons, who was also being accused, disappear to Bali, right? Left the U.S., disappeared to Bali, not coming back. So they probably think Russell Simmons left, but Russell left before he was charged, wasn't he? Right? It's not like Russell left, they charged him when he left. I hear you, Richard. I don't think it's going to, but I hear you. I think when Russell Simmons left, our prosecutors probably say, you know what? If we charge these people going forward, we're not giving them bail. Because they're going to find a way to get out of the country and go to a country which don't have extradition treaty with us, and we can't get them out. DC said, I once worked in one aspect of the art industry, and there were foul people there too, but most were verbally and psychologically abusive. Yeah, look, I mean, in any walks of life, Wall Street is no different. In fact, in certain years of Wall Street, you're a trader on the trading desk, they're just as rude as everybody else. Like rude. I remember once I went to the trading desk, I was doing a survey. We were doing some work whereby I was part of a team where you're trying to promote people to managing director. So the team go around, they nominate people for managing director. You then had to go around and identify who those people work with and then talk with them to figure out their view on the person. Because in that company that I work for, I won't say which company, if somebody is adverse to you making it, you may not make it. So suppose you work with 50 people, and 2 of those 50 people say, you know what? I don't think Cranky should be promoted. You may not get promoted. And I went to the trading desk to talk to somebody, and they want to have the discussion while on the floor. And I'm like, I can't have you talk about somebody who is being evaluated to be on the floor. And they're like, no. I'm like, we're not. And then he's trying to be rude to me. Not the right person to be rude to. I'm not playing with you. I'm not having a conversation. I was like, we're not having a conversation. If you don't want to get off the floor, the trading floor, then we're not going to talk. I'm not going to talk to you because you're being an idiot. Let me say, put that Jamaican language. I try to bad me up. I can't even bad up myself much as people can bad me up. Madness. But the point I'm trying to make is that in any industry that you're in, there's always going to be rude people. And the more power they have, sometimes they're more rude. They're harder to deal with. Because I think as individuals, power corrupts actually. And power gets to people's head. And they do things sometimes which are not, in my view, humane and just not right. So whether it's the music industry, whether it's Wall Street, whether it's the arts, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's sports, it's the same thing. Bad people just do bad things. Bad people do bad things, and bad people and people with bad personalities or just not good people are going to be abusive, and they're going to do things which are not appropriate. And even though the whole sexual predator thing is on Wall Street too, is everywhere. Drugs, these type of behavior, it's not unique to the music industry. It may be more pervasive there, and they probably have much more in the open, but it's everywhere. So we shouldn't just say it's that because you're in certain industries what happens. I think it goes across where money and power meet. These things happen. I'm not going to stay long, people, because I do appreciate you being here. And I thought I would just come on since Diddy's going to be trial starts next week. I shall touch on the subject. I've been doing more of these topics, actually. It's going to take a while to get up to speed on them, but I do think these are interesting topics that we need to talk about and maybe have different perspective on them, right? Most people take this from the angle of he's guilty or he's not guilty, but you have to sometimes look deeper and say, is everyone treated the same? Are we being fair to everyone? Do they have the same access to resources to defend themselves? For me, Diddy not being given bail is ridiculous, seriously. DC said, as a woman, I thought the leading advice was awful. Women can't network the way men do. I said, no, a lot of people, like leading could lead to an assault. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, actually. Look, women have made a lot of progress, but it shouldn't be where we're supposed to say they have made progress, because they should have been equal in the first place. Men have dominated. They have denied women equal access forever. And it's showing that, to me, when you deny people equal access, whether by race, sexuality, whether it's by gender, all you're doing is denying people who have certain ability to be part of the process to help you improve. That's all you're doing. Really interesting, right? We have so much talented people in the world who are not given the opportunity to maximize their potential, and the world loses, and we can't see that. We're so focused on race. We're so focused on some other things. And the world has enough resources, frankly, to satisfy everybody and for people to live decently. But we are so skewed in our thinking, our ways of how we operate, we can't seem to realize that. And don't realize that the time here on this earth is short. So why aren't we all supportive of each other as to, you know what? Whether you're black, green, or yellow, I want you to do well. And I want you to succeed versus, you know what? You don't look like me, so therefore, I have to find ways to deny you your rights. I have to find ways to ostracize you and just to promote people who look like me. And even in our case, we are black, we kill each other more than anybody else kill us. Because we have been mentally X'd up by those around us, actually. And it's just sad. So my hope is that Diddy gets a fair trial and that the chips fall where they may. Triple said, DC, is that why we don't have a female president in the US today? US and a female president. You would think that the country that's supposed to be the epitome of democracy and fairness and equality would have a female president by now. Maybe it's not that fair. Maybe it's not that equal. Maybe it's not that democratic. In fact, it seems like we're going to a more of a dictatorship, monarchy type structure versus what we had before. But anyway, I'm going to sign off, people. This is going to be a short. I was going to do a video, but I said, let me just do this live. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for being here. Hit the like button before you leave. And by the way, I may do some Reggae Boy stuff between now and Monday. I'm waiting for somebody to come back to me on a topic I want to talk about. They told me I can't talk about it yet, so we'll see what happens. And those of you who are saying cranky for Gensec, nah. Whether they don't want me and I don't want, we don't want each other. We don't want each other. They don't want me and I don't want them. So it's not happening. But I do appreciate you being here. Always enjoy this discussion. DC said it's absolute bias. The way Trump talks about black women, he constantly refers to us as low IQ. Well, I mean, to be honest, Trump doesn't have the highest IQ. I don't think people realize that, Trump doesn't have the highest IQ. Trump is enormous with people who are very, very smart. That's why he's enormous with Musk, for example, because he doesn't have the highest IQ. Trump went to Wharton because his father had money, and his professor there say he was XYZ, and Trump still can't show his grades. He can't show his grades because he probably didn't graduate. All right? Yeah, yes, Tripoli will give me more locks. In fact, it'd probably make me mad. Since I have beard, I've been growing my beard for 3 weeks now. I actually like it, so I'm gonna keep it for now anyway. Somebody told me not to grow it too long. We'll see what happens. In 3 weeks, it's getting real bushy, isn't it? But I like the beard. It's different. And I'm trying to do a lot of things that are different, Jamaica vibes. So we'll see what happens. But no, I'm gonna keep it for now and see what happens. But you hear some rumor happening with the JFF, and hopefully it's not. Well, I shouldn't say hopefully it's not true. Hopefully we'll get more clarity in a few days or so. But anyway, people, I'm gonna say good night. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy the weekend. Today's Friday. Go out and have fun. And I'll see you when I see you. Peace out.